Welcome back to the King's Corner, the place for all things Bethesda. I am the KingFanMan. And hey, if you love Bethesda and you're not subscribed yet to the KingFanMan channel, why not? That's all I talk about here, so go ahead, hit that subscribe button. We continue our search through the scariest places in Fallout 76. Today we look deeper into the history and the strange activities at the Whitespring Resort, or the real-life Greenbrier. The Greenbrier Resort, nestled in the beautiful Allegheny Mountains located in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, is a National Historic Landmark and is truly stunning with its picturesque setting and architecture. The amazing resort you see today was built in 1913, but its history traces way back to the 18th century and even beyond. The White Sulphur Spring water was already known for its therapeutic and healing qualities. The local native Indians frequented the waters, and it was they who alerted the first pioneers and settlers to take in the waters, as they called it, to relieve chronic pain and disease. In 1778, Mrs. Anderson, a local pioneer, was the first recorded guest of the natives to visit the waters. For the first 125 years, this area and later resort was known by the name White Sulphur Springs, and as the years passed, it became a more and more popular destination, especially in the summer, for those wishing to escape the heat and, of course, those seeking relief from pain and diseases. In 1817, the land was acquired by the Caldwell family, and James Caldwell began to acquire additional parcels of land surrounding the springs and oversaw the construction of several cottages, many of which are still standing today. In 1858, a huge hotel was built on the grounds, named the Grand Central Hotel, but was often called the White, and later the Old White. Early notable guests to the resort included the 8th President of the United States, Martin Van Buren, and both Senator and Congressman Henry Clay, who ran for president in 1824, 1832, and 1844, all unsuccessfully. These would not be the only famous guests to visit the resort. In fact, between the years 1838 and 1860, 4 more sitting presidents would grace the grounds at the Greenbrier. The 10th President of the United States, John Tyler, the 13th President, Millard Fillmore, the 14th President, Franklin Pierce, and the 15th President, James Buchanan. In April of 1861, things changed drastically. The United States was plunged into war, and this beautiful resort would find itself right in the middle of the conflict. The hotel and grounds were closed to guests, and during the war, both Union and Confederate troops would occupy the grounds. The Confederates used the Grand Hotel as a hospital and filled it with nearly 2,000 wounded soldiers. Even the dining room and parlor were filled with multiple rows of wounded men. At least 200 Confederate soldiers died during their time at Old White. General Robert E. Lee made a stop at White Sulphur Springs to visit the wounded. The splendor of this place, even with the ugliness of war, made a huge impact on the general. The horse he would ride into battle upon, he named Greenbrier, and his only post-war political statement was made at the Greenbrier Resort. In the fall of 1861, Union forces under Major General George McClellan were pressing down hard on the rebels in West Virginia. All the while, in November of that same year, a major disease outbreak hit the Confederates hard throughout the area, and especially at the Old White Hotel. The rebels' morale and health was low, and the Union seized upon this opportunity to strike, and strike hard. Just 4 short miles from the resort, the Union struck, led by Brigadier General Joseph J. Reynolds. 5,000 Union soldiers attacked the much smaller rebel force of 1,800 men. At 8 o'clock in the morning on October 3rd, 1861, 5 hours of fighting would ensue, and though the rebels were far outnumbered, the horrific fight in this valley would end in a virtual tie. Fearing the Confederates were about to bring in reinforcements, Reynolds ordered his troops to draw back. However, due to this battle and the disease now ravaging the Confederate army, The rebels were also forced to withdraw and abandon the resort. The Union Army occupied the resort for a short time. Their first plan was to burn the hotel to the ground, and this was a tactic they used throughout the war, called total war. By burning houses, businesses, and even whole towns, they aimed to devastate the southern economy, infrastructure, and morale, and hasten an end to the war. Luckily, in this case, they changed their mind, and like the Confederates, used the hotel and grounds for a hospital. At the end of the war, the hotel and grounds were in a horrific state. This place, once full of serenity, beauty, and peace, had been transformed by the close battles, the immense suffering, and death from both sides of the war. The hotel that once held splendor and was graced by presidents now sat as a crumbling shell of its former glory. The resort and hotel slowly recovered to the point where guests once again started to come for the beautiful views and the amazing waters. In 1869, the resort got a huge influx of new visitors because of the completion of the nearby Chesapeake and Ohio Railway. The Chesapeake and Ohio Railway purchased the resort in 1910 and further developed it into a major destination along its main line. Construction began on a new Grand Hotel and golf course and were completed in 3 short years. The name Greenbrier, after the county and the river, became the new preferred name of the resort. With its new amenities and new management, the resort prospered greater than before. Throughout the 1910s, 20s, and 30s, it was a mecca of high society. In 1913, President Woodrow Wilson visited for the Easter holiday, and in 1919, Prince Edward visited, who later became King Edward VIII. Even First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt came for a visit in 1936 to address a sorority meeting. However, the resort's hard times were not behind it, because on December the 7th, 1941, America was again plunged into war with the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and just 10 short days later, the U.S. government leased the hotel and grounds and turned it into a detention center and relocation center for Axis nation diplomats. The first detainees were Germans, later joined by Japanese and Italians. These diplomats and their families were held at the hotel for 7 months in the summer of 1942. The government released the diplomats in exchange for U.S. diplomats detained overseas. In September 1942, the United States Army purchased the hotel and surrounding 7,000 acres for $3.3 million. Workers began immediately turning the luxury resort once again into a functional Army hospital. The hotel was renamed the Ashford General Hospital. The hospital had over 2,000 beds and specialized in neurosurgery and vascular surgery. Between 1942 and 1946, the hotel treated over 24,000 soldiers. Notable patients included General Omar Bradley and future President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Although exact numbers are not known, it is estimated that at least 1,000 soldiers lost their lives at the resort, and countless trauma, pain, and misery as well. The hospital closed on June 30th, 1946, and the property was sold back to the C&O Railroad for just under the $3.3 million that they had been paid in 1942. The Greenbrier's reopening to the public was celebrated from April the 15th through the 18th, 1948, and was the international social event of the season. A few of the notable attendees included the Duke of Windsor, Bing Crosby, and members of the Kennedy family. The resort broke ground on a brand new wing to the hotel in the fall of 1958. No one was surprised by this expansion, but observant locals noticed something very odd about the project. The hole dug for the foundation was enormous. Vast amounts of concrete arrived daily, and guards were stationed to keep locals and onlookers at a distance. Even though locals suspected something, word didn't spread, and it would be 35 years before the truth was learned about the Greenbrier's West Wing. In the late 1950s, the United States government had approached the Greenbrier for assistance in creating a secret emergency relocation center for all 535 members of Congress in the event of a nuclear disaster. The classified underground facility named Project Greek Island was a fortified bunker kept stocked with supplies and sealed by a huge 25-ton blast door, and it was completed in 1961. The bunker includes 18 dormitories designed to accommodate more than 1,100 people, decontamination chambers, a full power plant with purification equipment, and 3 25,000-gallon water tanks. It also holds 3 14,000-gallon diesel fuel tanks, a full hospital wing with operating rooms, laboratory, pharmacy, and intensive care unit. It also has a communications area with full television production and recording booths, full cafeteria, meeting rooms for the House and Senate, and more. The bunker came to be called the last resort, and it was just that for our government until 1992, when the Washington Post wrote an article which exposed the facility to the public. In 1995, the U.S. government ended its agreement with the Greenbrier, and later that same year, the resort began offering tours of this historic facility. Today, the Greenbrier offers a host of activities and services for guests. The Casino Club, offering casino-style gambling, was opened in 2009. The Greenbrier has been known for its amazing golf course for many years. In 1979, the course at the Greenbrier hosted the Ryder Cup, and it's been known as one of golf's best courses ever since. The Greenbrier even has its own medical and sports facilities adjacent to the hotel. This sprawling 11,000-acre resort now boasts of 710 guest rooms, 20 restaurants and lounges, and 36 retail stores. With its 240-year history, America's resort, as it has come to be known, is truly a destination to be desired. But with all that history, is there more than just the living residing at the Greenbrier? The history of the Greenbrier is truly both amazing and tragic. A total of 28 presidents have visited this historic place, and countless celebrities, royalty, and notable figures. But the scars from both the Civil War and World War II still linger in its luxurious halls. Through the years, both workers and guests have reported seeing shadow figures throughout the premises and the grounds. Believe it or not, the golf course is notorious for strange activity. Many have recorded hearing voices when no one else is around, especially if you dare to take the course very early in the morning. Golfers and workers alike have claimed to have seen ghostly figures on the course. In 2015, the Arizona Cardinal football team booked a training retreat at the resort, and it's one that several of the players will never forget. They reported strange noises in their room, along with doors slamming when no one was around. But one of the players' rooms reported a young girl's disembodied voice was heard several times through the night. It scared several of these huge football players so much that they requested their coach let them stay the rest of the trip off the premises. This story was so well known among NFL teams that the next year the San Francisco 49ers team booked their stay in the sports and medical facility next door instead of the hotel. But these strange occurrences didn't just affect athletes. A couple of years later, in 2018, many employees from Bethesda took a corporate retreat to the resort. They encountered so much strange activity that journalist Matt Hopkins began to track and record all the paranormal activity the visitors from Bethesda experienced. Several reported mysterious knocks and sounds in their rooms. One guest watched as a chair was moved around his room on its own. 2 employees said they felt the sensation of being groped by unseen hands, and a few mentioned their TVs turning on and off by itself. But the worst one guest from Bethesda woke up in the middle of the night to see a figure standing by their bed. Now, some will dismiss all these claims outright, but it cannot be debated. Both staff and guests throughout the years have been consistent in their reports. Does this majestic place harbor more than just the living? Many of the people who know the place best would say an emphatic yes. But whatever you believe, there is no doubt the Greenbrier is one of the most unique historic and truly amazing places, not just in West Virginia or the United States, but anywhere.